Upgrades.
Welcome back to another JVS movie review. Today, we bring you a film that kind of threw me off a little bit. I'll be bluntly honest with it. And I kind of think that was the purpose of the film. It's to kind of freak you out and throw you off a little bit. Even if I don't think the film perfected it at all. But the name of the film is Blink Twice. And here's a quick synopsis. When tech billionaire Slater King meets a cocktail waitress, Frida, at his fundraising gala, he invites her to join him and his friends for a dream vacation on his private island. Wild nights soon blend into sun-soaked days, but when the strange things start to happen, Frida must uncover the truth if she hopes to survive. This is directed by Zoë Kravitz. It stars Naomi, Ackie. It stars Channing Tatum, Christian Slater, Haley Joel Osment, Gina Davis, and Alia Shawkat. Now, here's the thing. This is the most confusing revenge thriller that's set up as a fantasy island getaway that kind of leads itself into having to be a revenge thriller that I've ever seen. That's the best way to put this film. As we're introduced to Naomi Akkie's character, Frida, and we see her and her best friend as they are just cocktail waitresses, and she dreams of being able to meet Slater King again. They kind of hint to some chance encounter they had possibly a year before at this gala where she was a waitress at, and she just wants to meet him again. Her friend sets up a chance encounter where they get to dress up and go to this gala and just drink with him all night, party with him all night. And then just as he's leaving with his friends, they invite her back to the island. And that's when the movie gets kooky. At the point of time when they get to the island, as an audience member, you are attempting to figure out exactly what this movie's about. It goes on a bit long as we see them in this island and we just see them go day by day by day of doing the same things of drugging, smoking, eating fancy foods, and just dressing in all white like a cult. Like all of those type of things happen on this island before a truth is revealed. And then that's when the film makes the sharpest left turn humanly possible here. And this is where the film has the problem. That the film has a lot of setup, and you're kind of watching it wondering exactly what you're getting into. Again, I brought up Fantasy Island because and I'm talking about the horror movie Fantasy Island, not necessarily the show that came on Fox or the original series from years ago. I'm talking about the horror movie Fantasy Island. It's kind of almost set up the exact same way. You get to this island, you think it's all for your dreams, and then things go bad and go horribly bad. The problem here is in a film where it feels like it's trying to send a message, the bad in this film is almost it's too much to fathom that anyone thought that could work in this film here. It goes so far to exactly the actions that are taking place that leads us to this big revelation of what needs to happen next. I'm being vague because it would spoil too much, and that's not the goal here, to spoil anything at all. But we already know once you get to the island, something happens. That's a known fact. The trailer gives you that much. But when it's revealed what that is, I think that's when this film just ventures off to a point where it feels too self-serving to be actually good. It feels like it's trying to force a message to an audience, but you would have to kind of ignore the first half of the film completely to get the message, because without the first half of the film, there is no message. But so many of the actions in the first half of the film are responsible for what happens in the second act of the film that the second act of the film just doesn't make any sense. We're left with evil characters that are doing evil things that make absolutely no sense at all. Again, it feels like it's trying to send a message of either what powerful people will do, what they think they can get away with, and the lengths they're willing to go to have the wildest times humanly possible, and for them to go unpoliced and unbeknownst to anybody else involved. It was the most disturbing thing I had seen on film when it was revealed exactly what was happening on the island. That this is the first time I saw a film and I thought, wow, I can't watch this anymore, because it just, and it's not so disturbing to the extent where it would take you completely out the film. It's so disturbing because it's not executed well enough for it to be believable. But in turn, it just feels grotesque because it's not believable. That makes any sense at all to you. Like, for a film to just want to venture left, just to go left, I think most of those films fail miserably because you still need to have an anchor to realism in a film, or to have something that makes you say, I understand why these actions took place. You understand nothing that happens in this movie. And because of it, it feels like it goes out its way to create evil characters instead of it being a natural progression, or even hints to this is would be their natural progression. Like, they kind of hint at some stuff at the beginning of the film, and they try to connect dots later on, especially in the third act. They try to connect some of the dots that they laid in the first act, and it just feels sloppy while you're watching it. And I don't necessarily know if that's the problem with the script. I don't know if this is because this is directed by Zoë Kravitz. I don't know, because I think this is her directorial debut. I don't know if maybe a more skilled filmmaker could have done something different, but I doubt it. I just think it's too harsh of a film in its turn to the second half to ever think this could have been executed well by anybody involved here. And that's the problem here. From an acting standpoint, though, Channing Tatum is great. Naomi Ackie is great. Most of the cast is pretty good and pretty entertaining in it. Like, they keep you intrigued enough in the first half of the film where you are just sitting on the edge of your seat, kind of wondering what's going to happen. It's just when that turn happens, it is so sharp and it is so unnecessary, and it feels so just misogynistic. Like, it's so many things that I did not like. Grotesque. Like, I can think of multiple terms to say the way that turn made me feel while I was watching this movie, and I didn't enjoy it at all. Like, at that point, I'm not gonna say completely took me out of it, but at that point, I was waiting for the film to redeem itself, and it never does after that turn. So it's like the build up in the first half of the film, and you're kind of wondering exactly what's going on. It has these creepy moments here and there, and then it makes this sharp turn, and then it gives you a twist at the end that doesn't at all make sense. And you're like, wait, none of this is factoring in to be even feel realistic in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And when you have these type of films that in the end lend itself to be a revenge thriller type of film, either you need to go overtly over the top, like a Last House on the Left, and you just say, we're just going to make this most grotesque film humanly possible, or you have to go the smarter route here. And it feels like this film attempted to do both and failed miserably at both. And that's the problem here. But again, from an acting standpoint, it's acted well. Zoe, from a directing standpoint, I think she does a beautiful job at setting up shots, setting up scenery. Like, again, the build on the first half of the film is pretty good because you're kind of just intrigued exactly what's going on. But when you get to that turn in the second half of the film just completely falls apart because of that turn. And it is a turn that was so unnecessary to me. Like, you could have went down the path that this film was trying to go to without being so harsh at the turn, and then it feels like trying to convey a message of uh women's power, women's intuition, what powerful people do to maintain their power and what they're willing to do to others and how they're willing to treat other people. It became a message film in the second half, but in a grotesque way that was unnecessary to do it. And then by that point, by the time it gets to that turn, and by the time you get to the third act, it's just, let's gross you out. That's what it feels like. It's like, let's gross you out with as much stuff as humanly possible, just to make you just wonder what the heck are you watching here. And to say all of that, this is also a film that completely wastes Gina Davis. So that to itself is also something you kind of wonder, like, it's such a minuscule role that they have her in, and she is Gina Davis, and you're like, you could have gotten anybody to play this role. Why did you have to get Gina Davis to play this role? And it's because, again, the name just makes you think it'd be a bigger role, and why they attempt, again, connect the dots in the third act, it still does not connect enough to make or redeem the film. And that's the problem here. And then it gives you an ending that just, by the time you get there as an audience member, at least in my perspective, you just completely, you're through with the movie. You're like, okay, like this is something that I would never watch again type of through with a film. That's how it feels by the time you get to the end of the film. But blink twice. It drops in theaters August the 23rd. It is brought to you by Amazon through MGM. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Blink Twice a 4 out of 10. Again, the first half of this film does a really good job at just not necessarily building suspense, but just leaving you wondering what's exactly going on as these people are having the time of their life. But by the time you get to that turn, it goes downhill in a rapid pace after the turn that the film makes in a second act. But it's not to take away from the actors who do a pretty good job here. I think Zoe does a good job at setting up scenes. I think that scenery shots in this film were absolutely brilliantly done. I think a lot of the one-on-one shots with the actors are also done well. I just think in the end, story and the plot are not redeemable. And because of that, this movie just falls off of a cliff. And when it falls off of that cliff, it never recovers. And you're just kind of waiting the entire time to see if it recovers. But check it out when it drops in theaters. Let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.